Hey everyone, just thought I'd make a quick video on how to get the receiver board working with Simplex and the weather. The board came from GMRSTWOWAYRADIO.com. This is what the board looks like. This is the board purchased here from Noah's site. I also had to purchase the repeater cable that he sells. The repeater cable was installed in the radio. I had a DB9 and it's this cable right here, nice and easy. It's real easy to install. Just take the cover off, remove the sticker that covers this port, get your own screws, and plug it in. Other than that, the only other things I had to modify were the radio speaker out right here volume and the PC mic. Other than that, you'll have to tweak those to your own settings, but I will zoom in here. These are mine. I believe every board is going to be a little different, so you're going to need to play with that. I would definitely mark on the board where they are when they leave the factory to get to you, so you can return them back to normal if there's an issue. I'm going to run through each of the options in Simplex and the weather player. I'll explain to you if I made a modification to them or not. You can pause the video at any time on a specific screen so you can copy the settings for yourself. On the main screen right here, you'll notice that I'm currently set to auto, which means it's listening. I'm going to stop that for now so I can run through the settings cleaner, because it does have some issues if you don't. You'll notice the RPT changed to green. Under normal circumstances, if it's in auto while it's red, that means it has not received anything. If I were to transmit, that would flip to green, and then in the 10-minute period, like that, in the 10-minute period that I have setting here, it would send out the recorded audio. In this case, it is the Morse code of my repeater. First things I had to do where you notice the blue bar is the squelch line received from the radio. I have my setting as close to that bar as possible to where it will not trigger, but yet a simple click on the repeater will cause it to set the timer to send the message out. No settings here need to be changed. Under mode, you'll notice that I have it set for duplex and repeater mode. My detection is also set for the COM port. I'll explain COM ports fully in a minute when I get there. Configuration for the sound card. I'm using the onboard sound card of the Windows computer that this is plugged into. I bought that computer off of Amazon. It's this device right here. I wholly recommend you do not get the N95 processor for $10 less and spend the extra $10 and get the N100 as a minimum. 8 gig of RAM and 256 gig is way more than enough space than you're ever going to need. My box is running headless, so I'm actually remoted into right now using Windows Desktop. You're also going to need this USB to DB9 cable to connect up to the DB9 port on the card. As you saw in my picture, this is my card mounted to a wall with a bunch of spacers. This is the DB9 cable adapter I showed you. This goes to a USB port in the computer. The other port goes to power. The other one goes to the radio. So anyway, as I said, I'm using the sound cord on the computer because the computer sits here and does nothing. It's not receiving messages. Nothing else is running. It's just these applications. If you run other things on your computer alongside this, and you're going to start hearing all sorts of Windows sounds, you're going to want to put in a dedicated sound card and choose your sound card and configure it that way. As you can see here, I only have the one sound card on this computer. I don't need a second sound card. This computer, as I said, is not doing anything other than this purpose. I'll touch on the COM ports for a second. This is the physical COM port in the computer. I changed it to COM 10. You can change it by going to properties and just changing the port settings on the device. I'm also running as recommended from multiple other channels to run this HHD virtual serial port software tool. COM5 is the actual COM port of that USB cable I told you I plugged in, and I have it setting as COM1, so I'm sharing COM1 amongst all the applications, but the physical port is COM5. That's the cable plugged into the repeater board. This tone here setting, I did change this, 241. You need to put your private line tone or your PL tone or your CTCSS tone that needs to go in here so the software knows which tone to accept as part of your transmission. All these other settings I did not mess with on this screen. I did not change anything on this DTMF screen. This screen I did make changes to. My beacon activates every 10 minutes, only if audio is heard. This is the file I have playing in the background for when it does receive audio, and these are the settings here. So if it doesn't receive anything for 9 minutes, it just ignores it and sits in silence until someone triggers it, and within a 9 or 10 minute period it'll play my Morse code tones. This has not been set. I did let it automatically choose this. I believe this gets set automatically when you install Weather Player, but if not, you might want to make sure this is checked if you're also using Weather Player. All these other settings I have not gone into. There's been no changes here at all on any of the rest of the settings under configuration. Under port, as I said, I'm sharing COM1. That's the virtual port running under the software. That's actually COM5, but I'm sharing COM1 so both the Weather Player and Simplex can use it. I did not make any changes here under PTT configuration. And under squelch configuration, this is dependent on your radio, but if you're using the RT9000, these are the settings. This here I did play with. I believe 300 milliseconds is the appropriate time for a transmit delay, so you don't cut off the beginning of any transmissions, but you can play with that as you like. Based on experience, I would run some tests before you put this in a while, but these are my settings for 300, and my RX delay was 100 milliseconds, which I believe is the default. Other than that, most important thing to do is your silent time here. If the shorter you make this, the faster it'll trigger to be able to send the tone. The longer you make this, the more audio it needs to receive before it'll trigger that gate to set the tone off. And I'm just going to return this back to normal. It's now sitting like this for normal. If I key up my radio, you'll notice that changed to green, and you'll also notice that the cuckoo clock went in. The burp got hit behind the cuckoo clock because that means it was receiving something and it's not supposed to transmit. This will stay green for the next 9 or 10 minutes, at which time it'll transmit my Morse code tone, and this will return back to red, probably during the course of this video. Same thing on the audio card side for the Weather Player. I'm using Windows. I'm letting it choose the default card because there's only one audio card. The COM port is COM1. This is applicable and allowable because we're using that virtual serial software. If you do not do that, you will not be able to have more than one application talking to a single COM port at any time. You need to use that virtualization software. I believe there's more details on that in the GMRSTWOWAYRADIO YouTube channel and or JDub. His channel has it as well. I believe that's it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to add a comment below, and good luck and have a good day. Thank you.